Hey guys, it's Mr. Amari here again with a short tutorial on TinkerCAD for you. Today I'm going to go over two things. One, I'm going to show you how to log in if you've never logged in before using the credentials that I've sent you. And then I'm going to show you how to do a basic project where you're making a keychain. Now some of you have already done this. This is more aimed at the people who are new to the classes when all of this happened and didn't have a chance to do the basic tutorials, or for those who might have forgotten and need the basic tutorials again. Either way, just be aware that this is a very beginner tutorial. I'll have things for the more advanced students as the week goes on. So the first thing you're going to want to do is go to TinkerCAD.com. You should see this screen where you have the flat as boring and the dinosaur 3D printed objects on the screen. And what you're going to do is you're going to go to the Sign In button. Once you're there, you have a few different options. Now, because you're using a class code and not an email or username, you're going to click where it says Students Join Your Class. Now, you should have a box here that says type in your class code. That'll be the class code, again, that I have emailed to you already. So, in case you don't know it, this is the class code. You can always pause the video here to write it down. I'm going to go ahead and copy that class code and then paste it here into my class. When I go to my class, it'll ask me for my nickname. Again, this is more or less like your password. This is the thing that's going to let you know, let me know that it's you that's logging in and nobody else. If you have not received a nickname credential from me, please email me through IO Classroom and I can send you one to join this classroom. So let me just go ahead and get my password here. Go ahead and paste that in. Once you hit That's Me, you'll have this page where it shows my recent designs. Now I'm going to go ahead and show you how to use the basic tools of TinkerCAD to create a very basic project, namely a keychain. First thing you're going to do is hit Create New Design, and then that'll load up a new workspace for you. Now this is your workspace. The workspace is fairly straightforward and gives you lots of room to work. The first thing to know is that you have this icon in the top left here, which allows you to left click and hold and move in order to view the workspace from all three dimensions. You can also, if you don't want to hold up here, go anywhere on your workspace, right click on your mouse and move your mouse, and gives you a little bit more of that smooth movement. If at any point you found yourself looking at part of your workspace that you don't want to look at anymore, you can always hit this home button here that'll snap it back to this top front view every single time. Also, if there are specific places you want to look at, you can always click on the icon on the top here and it'll bring you to the different parts of the box. So, let's talk about making a keychain. With TinkerCAD, we're doing what's called additive design, where we're taking basic shapes and we're using them to make the objects that we want to have. So let's say I want to make a keychain for somebody. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take my box shapes. Over here on the right, you have your basic shapes menu. Now, if you click on the menu here, you have a lot of different menus you can pull up. We're going to stick with the basic shapes for now. So I'm going to pick the box out, and you'll notice that when I put the box on my workspace, it gives me these 4 white bounding boxes. That's what those are called, bounding boxes. What I can do is I can click and hold on those bounding boxes to drag and make it bigger or smaller as I see fit. You'll notice we also have a bounding box that goes straight up here, which allows me to adjust the height. So I can do the length, the width, the depth, and the height. Not only that, you can also use this cone here at the top. Click and hold, and you can change the height where it is on the work plane. One thing you might have noticed when I clicked on these objects is that it gives me numbers here when I click on my bounding boxes. Right now, these are the exact measurements of what these sides are, and right now I have them in millimeters. What we can do is we can actually change what those units are by going down to the bottom right here where it says Edit Grid. When I click on Edit Grid, the first thing I can do is change millimeters to inches if that's what I want to do. When you do that, it tells you, it automatically converts whatever you had here into inches. You hit Update Grid, and there you have it. Everything's in inches right now. So if I want to make this box a 2" by 2" box, I would just go over to these areas, click on it, type in the number I want, and that gives me a 2" by 2" box. I can do the same with the bounding box going up to give me an object that's exactly the size I want it to be. Another thing that you can do, where it says snap grid, this lets you know exactly how often this will snap onto one of those lines. It makes it very easy to line things up. I like to move this up a little bit so that I have smoother movement and higher control of my objects to 1/64 of an inch. You can see how much more smoothly I can move this. It makes it a little harder to line up with the lines, but it gives me a lot more control of how I can assemble things and how I can line things up. So making the keychain. Making the keychain, the first thing we want to do is we want to make sure that we're making a keychain that's going to be able to fit in our pocket. So we're going to keep this as a 2" wide piece, but we don't want it to be a big square. What we're going to do is make it into a rectangle. So we're going to make this at least half as deep as it is wide. That looks a little better. And of course, it's a little too tall as well. Now with this, I don't have an exact measurement in mind, but I can kind of eyeball it if I bring it down. And yeah, right about there. Now we don't want to make it too thin. If we make it too thin, it won't print properly. But this looks like something I could fit in my pocket, a little 2" by 1" rectangle. Now, of course, we don't want to print out just a hunk of plastic here. We want to be able to put something on this. Let's say, for example, I want to make this for one of my sons. So I can go and I can grab over here on the right side in your basic shapes. There's what's called the text tool. You click and drag it out and you get a big thing that says text. Now, of course, first thing, this is way too big. We're going to grab that little bounding box in the bottom right corner, and we're going to go ahead and shrink this text down a little bit. I'm also going to go ahead and take this object and move it over so that it lines up with my rectangle. What I always like to do here when I'm layering two objects with each other is go to the top view, and you can see how it lines up. Now, this is obviously pretty nice. It fits within. But I'm also going to need to put a hole here in order to put a keychain through. So I need to be able to make this a little smaller. Looking pretty good so far. Now you'll notice that these two things are both the same color. This is because when you print things in 3D printers, you are generally going to print things all one color. The nice thing about designing this though is we can change the color of our objects to make it easier to see them. So what I can do is I can click on my text box and you'll notice that a little shape menu popped out. This tells me all the things I can change for that shape. So I'm going to go ahead and it says solid. I'm going to click on that and I'm going to pick a different color. Now again, it won't print out this color, but it at least lets me see the two different objects very differently from each other, so it makes it easier for me to design and move them around. I'm also going to change that text. Now I'm making this for my son, so I'm going to change it to his name. Now, as you can see, as I type it in, it changes it in real time. I can change the height of the font. I can change the type of font it is. I can do a lot of different things here. What I want to do, though, is you'll notice that's way too tall. Look at that. That's not going to fit in anyone's pocket comfortably. So I'm going to make sure I'm on my atom part here, just the text part. Notice how I'm selecting just this. I'm going to take that height bounding box and bring it down until it looks about right. The other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to zoom in on this. I'm going to make sure that it's actually touching and kind of going through the plastic here. Oh, it's going too much through the plastic. Now, we want it to go through the plastic, but we don't want it to go all the way through because it's going to print this on the bottom. So what we can do again is we can make this thinner and then raise up the height a little bit. Now we can see it's still coming through the bottom a little bit, so we're going to raise it up just that little bit more, one more notch, and perfect. It's touching, but it's not going straight through. Now the last thing I need to do is I need to put a hole through this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to grab another shape. I'm going to grab a cylinder, because a cylinder, when you look top down on it, is just a circle. Now this cylinder obviously is way too big, but that's okay. Again, I'm going to use my bounding boxes here. I'm going to make this much smaller, much more manageable, much more like a circle would be. Now you'll notice that it's still kind of centered on the atom part and making it hard for me to look at the cylinder. If I want to change that, I can click on my cylinder and click this button over here on the left side, or hit the F key on my keyboard, and it'll focus in on the thing that you are looking at, or that you have selected, I should say. Now this is all well and good, but now I have a giant cylinder going through my keychain. What I'm going to do is I'm going to grab the height object and I'm going to punch that straight through so I have the cylinder going through the entire thing. Now obviously I'm not going to print it this way. What I am going to do is I'm going to turn this into a hole. The way you do that is you select your object and then go over to the shape menu. You're going to go over, instead of clicking the button that says solid, you're going to click the button that says hole. And you'll notice now it's transparent. I can see through it. Once I have all this, I'm pretty much done. We need to do one more thing though. In order for us to be able to send this to a 3D printer and have it see it as one shape instead of 3 different shapes, I'm going to have to select all of them and do what's called group them. So I'm going to go outside of my objects, I'm going to left click and hold on my mouse, I'm going to create a selection box around everything, then I'm going to let go. You'll see that a shapes menu popped up here and it tells me I have 3 shapes selected, and it even shows where my shapes are selected from. Then I'm going to go just above here on the right side, and there's a button here that shows 2 shapes grouping together. I'm going to click that button, and now you'll see that every single piece is brought together as one piece. You can see the holes as holes, and everything's brought back down to one color. A pretty handsome little keychain for a young man. Now, the last thing we need to do is we need to make sure we save this work properly. I'm going to go up to the top left here. You'll notice that there's a nonsense name that was given to this object. We're going to click on that name to change it, and I'm going to name it Adam Keychain 1. I'm going to go fix any spelling errors or typos I might have. That E should not be capitalized. And then all I need to do in order to save this, very simply, is click that TinkerCAD logo on the left side. And that'll bring me right out to my recent designs. This is the basic way of how to begin working with TinkerCAD and how to make a keychain. Again, if you've already done this, don't fret. I'm going to be making, probably about tomorrow, a few more of these higher level tutorial videos, having other things for you to do besides this. I just want to make sure I put this tutorial out there to not only cover for people who've already done it, who might need a little refresher, but also for those who are new to the class. Thank you guys. I hope this was useful, and I'll see you guys in the next video.